Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video, I'm showing you guys our Ethernet connections here, going over how we're setting up our Ethernet, as well as go over some of our power connections, PDUs, things like that. You see our farm here is basically ready to go. We just got some Ethernet connections left to go with and hooking up these PDUs. Now the power has not been turned on yet. That's the one thing we're waiting on right now. We're waiting for the city to actually turn the power on. They have to power our primary meter, then our transformer will immediately get powered, and then we'll start mining. So technically, if we had power right now, we would just hook up these PDUs, and then we'd boot up, 30 miners immediately right now. But because the power is not on, we're just going to continue going with Ethernet and continue working with the PDUs. So that's what today's video is going to be about. So if that's interesting, you know what to do. Hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and go to cryptollc.org if you're looking to set up an ASIC or GPU mining farm. This is an ASIC farm, a 2.2 megawatt farm. If you want to set up something like this on your property, on your land, maybe at your farm, at a warehouse, we can help you do that at cryptollc.org. Go to our site, send us an email, we'll get in touch. Or if you want to buy some ASICs or buy some GPUs, we have great prices right now. Bitcoin's about 25, 26K. So it's a really good opportunity to jump in and buy some ASICs at a discount, and as well as GPUs at a discount. All right, and before we get started, Bitcoin saves your wealth and Jesus Christ saves your soul. All right, let's get started. So today's video is going to be talking about Ethernet, mostly Ethernet, a little bit about PDUs. So let's start off with our Ethernet connections. So we're running some 48 port switches, a 24 port switch, and we're doing like combinations of that, 48, 24, 48, 24. The reason why we're doing that is because we have 60 miners per rack section. So from this bar over here to this one over here, right, we have row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 at the very top. Those ones at the top are actually flat. And you count all those up, it's going to be 60 miners. So this 48 port switch only has 48 connections minus 1 for the link, and then if it has another switch is going to, that's minus 2. So you can imagine that, 48 minus 2 or 48 minus 1. So that's not enough. So that's why I have that 24 port. So how we're doing this is we're running the Ethernet on the side here. It's going to be run down these interlinking sections, and then it's going to be run across this metal frame. Then it feeds the miners on the bottom and the miners on top. So at the bottom down there, it's only just going to be feeding one side. But this middle section is going to be feeding this top miner row and then this bottom miner row. Same thing over here, top, bottom. Same thing over there. It's going to be top, bottom, and so on. So each one individually needs to be crimped and and set up and all that stuff. So you have to do it for each and every miner. So that's a good amount of time that needs to be invested here to hook up all these ASICs. Then we have that port, that switch over there. It's a 24 port switch. And again, it's going to be hooking up all of these miners on this section. Again, 60 more miners. I have a 48 port switch and another 24. Same thing, feeding the next 60 miners. So on and so on and so on. So that's how we're setting it up. Now we're leaving a little bit of slack here for miners. The reason why we're leaving slack is because you want to future-proof your setup, that if in the future you switch over to something else, maybe in the future there are miners that are going to be taller, shorter, wider, longer. You want to be able to move the miner in and out, maybe left or right. Maybe you're going to be double stacking them. Maybe you're going to redo these racks and then pick them up a little bit higher. Whatever it is, you want to have room on the Ethernet. So that way, you don't just go directly to the miner, because if something changes and now you're out of space. Now you don't have any space. Your Ethernet is not long enough. So you have to do something about that. So to prevent that from happening, we have a lot of slack here for every miner, so we can move them around as we wish. That's really nice. Now, a little bit about PDUs. So our PDUs here, these are 3-phase 240 PDUs. They are 60 amp, I think it was, 50 or 60 amps. And so they run about 35,000 watts on each PDU. And we're running all these miners in low power mode. So we can hook in 3 PDUs, or actually 3 miners per circuit here. So 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, 3, 3, and 3. So we're running a lot of miners, and we're running them on low power mode. Each miner is consuming about 1750 watts, so 1,750 watts. You times that by 18 miners, and that'll give you about 35K. So that gives us the opportunity to, it's actually perfect setup here where we can load up 2 rows because there's 9 on each row. We can load up 2 rows per PDU. So we have PDU there, that's 2, 4, 6, and then that top one over there, that powers the top row, and then the row to the left and the row to the right. So really nice setup. So once we start pulling wire for that, have more videos coming for you guys. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Hit subscribe on it, like the video, because as we start pulling wire for these PDUs, you'll be able to see how we're hooking them up, how we are getting all 3 phases here, what kind of copper we're using, all that stuff. And then once we actually load it up and it's fully loaded and it's running at at 1750, all 19 miners, we'll be able to measure the amp load, right at the panel. So we'll go to, not here, we're not gonna be measuring here, but we'll measure right at the panel. And I'll show you guys how many amps 18 miners are using. So you can actually do the calculations there. Each leg is 240, so you do 240, 240, 240, and then how many amps and the volts and all that stuff. You already know the volts 240, but that way you can see, hey, 18 miners are consuming this many watts. You can divide that by how many terahashes each miner is producing, and then it'll give you the efficiency. So it's a great way to measure everything, because now you're doing like a test on 18 miners. Instead of testing individual miners, like you have to test this miner, you're testing it on its own circuit, on its own copper. It's got a 20 amp, copper connection, 20 amp breaker. So you're measuring it at the breaker and it's consuming, 8 amps or something like that. And you're doing the calculations here. You just run all 18 miners at once, and then you measure all 18 at once, and then you have a really solid number, because then you see how many terahashes each miner is consuming. You get the average of the terahashes, or actually the combination of all the terahashes, and then you can get the exact number of the amps loaded at the time, and you can see exactly what the efficiency is in general in all 18 miners, because that's what you want. You don't want to just base your math off of 1 or 2 miners. You want to base it off of like 20 different test results. Anyway, so this is what we're working on here. Again, if we had power, these miners would be on, and then we would just continue going, plugging in the next PDU and plugging in the next Ethernet and then turning those on, and then the next PDU, the next set of Ethernet and turning those on, and so on and so on and so on. But we can't do that right now as we're waiting for the city to energize our facility here, and that should happen any day now. So when that happens, more videos coming up for you guys, and we'll finally have this farm launched. You can see how we're going here. All right. So again, let me remind you guys, if you're looking to set up an ASIC farm, a farm like this, go to cryptollc.org. Doesn't matter what country you're in or what state you're in. We can help you set up a farm. We help you manage the farm. We can buy you the miners, get you the containers, get you, everything that's required, PDUs, or maybe you want to go with an amp box, or maybe you want to go with a natural gas generator, something like that. Whatever you want to go with, we can help you do that. So we've been mining for over 7 years here at Crypto LLC. We've got extensive experience, and we can help you set up that farm. All right, well, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys like it. Until next time, goodbye.